The dark truth behind the hidden treasure parable, what they don't want you to know, beneath the hushed whispers of twilight, when shadows creep into every corner, lies a treasure hidden for centuries, a treasure that had ignited the fiery imaginations of countless adventurers. This wasn't just any buried loot, it was wrapped in a dark, twisted parable that the world seemed eager to forget. In the heart of an old dusty town, stories of ghostly figures and cursed trinkets lingered like a thick fog. The legends curled around every sharp cobblestone, thick with mystery. Hearts raced and palms got clammy just hearing the name of the treasure, but the most unsettling part. No one knew who tried to find it, or what happened to them. With each nightfall, locals whispered about a peculiar old man seen near the abandoned mines. His eyes flickered like dying embers in a fire, and they claimed he spoke to the dead. How many had approached him seeking answers through the swirling mists? How many vanished into thin air, never to be seen again? The tales were wild, but in a town that teetered on the edge of belief and madness, they rang chillingly true. Kids narrowed their eyes and held their breath while adults exchanged anxious glances, relaying the stories in hushed tones. The treasure was real, that much they knew. But was the price too high? From a distance, the mine looked harmless, just a dark hole in rocky hills. But a thick plummet of fear sank into the town's gut every time the wind howled through those depths. It was said that if you dared enter, you'd feel the crushing weight of regret before you even took a step. Those who tried to unearth its secrets often returned, their eyes hollow, haunted by their quest. What did they see down there? And worse, what didn't they see? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tale twisted like a serpent in the shadows, a new figure loomed behind the old man, a girl, no more than 16, wide-eyed and determined. She was the first to step closer, pushing through the murmurs and gasps of the crowd. "I'll find it," she vowed, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. But what drove her? The glint of gold? Or something deeper, something the town had buried long ago? With the sun hiding beneath the horizon and the moon beginning to rise, the atmosphere grew thick with tension, a smothering blanket of uncertainty and fear. The crowd held its breath as her silhouette vanished into the darkness of the mine. What awaited her? And would she too become a tale whispered in fear, a ghost among the shadows? The chill of the mine clutched at her like icy fingers as she stepped deeper into the darkness. Each footfall echoed, a lonely ghost haunting the blackened corridor. The air, thick with stale moisture, bit into her lungs and made her throat burn. She barely noticed the dampness, though. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, panic and determination entwined in an uneasy dance. "Just find the treasure," she whispered to herself. "It's just a story. It can't be real." But even as the words tumbled from her lips, doubt gnawed at her resolve. What could possibly be lurking in the darkness? The stories of the old man swirled like smoke in her mind. He had seen things, heard whispers from the shadows. Why was she risking everything for something that might only bring her pain? She reached into her pocket, fingers brushing against the old compass her grandfather had given her. It had always pointed true, a small piece of comfort in the face of uncertainty. As she held it tight, a shiver crept over her, and she squinted into the dark, trying to make out the path before her. The walls of the mine narrowed, jagged stone closing in like an unyielding fist. Flickering shadows danced around her, making her heart race. Every creak and groan of the mine felt like a warning, one she hesitated to ignore. But fear couldn't overshadow her will. This was about more than treasure, this was about discovering the truth buried along with her family's shame. With a sudden burst of courage, she focused ahead, taking careful steps. She could hear the echo of her heartbeat, a rhythm that both frightened and grounded her. It was the only sound until a soft whisper brushed against her ear. Turn back. Her skin prickled with fear as she spun around. The darkness bore no witness. Only her thoughts remained, casting long shadows of doubt. Was she losing her mind? Maybe the tales were true. What had happened to those before her? What if she was destined to join their ranks? Pushing aside the terror, she resumed her trek until a faint glow emerged ahead, drawing her like a moth to a flame. The further she traveled, the more vibrant the light became, a beacon in the suffocating darkness. As she rounded the final bend, the sight that greeted her was both breathtaking and horrifying. Stretched before her was a vast cavern, illuminated by an otherworldly glow emanating from jewels embedded within the rock walls. But instead of beauty, the scene felt alive. The gems pulsed like beating hearts, and the air crackled with an energy that went beyond her understanding. She took a step forward, entranced, when a thunderous voice boomed, echoing through the chamber. Only the worthy may take the treasure. Face the truth of your soul, or be consumed by its greed. The ground trembled, causing her to stumble back. The jewels flickered, ominously shifting from radiant colors to deep shades of crimson. Laughter low, guttural seeped from the shadows like a dark miasma, wrapping around her. Worthy? What is worthy? She thought, panic rising within her chest. Was she ready to confront whatever lay in the depths of her heart? Her breath quickened. Did she even dare to ask the question she'd buried all along? But the question loomed, heavy as the darkness itself, and in that moment, she realized changing fates might come with consequences attached. What truths awaited her in this cursed place? Would she uncover the treasure or unleash an unimaginable horror? With trepidation threading through every nerve, she took a deep breath and steadied herself. The next step would reveal everything, but at what cost? The ground quaked beneath her feet, the voice still reverberating in her ears. She hesitated, uncertainty clawing at her resolve. Was she truly prepared to confront her innermost fears? Sweat trickled down her spine, and her heart drummed louder than before, a tattoo of impending dread. Face the truth of your soul. The words twisted in her mind like serrated knives. What truth was she hiding? What secrets of her family tree did she dare ignore? They had haunted her since childhood. This journey wasn't just about treasure, it was about grappling with her legacy, the dark history she had inherited. Inhaling sharply, she took a calculated step forward, driven by an unyielding urge to prove herself. The gems continued to pulse, their glow shifting with her every movement, each shift sending shivers coursing through her. It was as if the cavern itself was alive, judging her, watching her. Show me what you've got. She shouted into the stillness. I'm not afraid. But as her voice echoed back, swallowed by the darkness, a heavy silence descended like a curtain. It felt oppressive, suffocating. Tension coiled within her. A part of her, the quiet, cautious part, begged her to turn back. Yet, another was drawn deeper into the chamber by curiosity, by the pressing need to unveil the family shame she had skirted her entire life. Only the worthy may take the treasure. The voice resonated again, more menacing this time, making her skin crawl. It rang in her mind like a bell tolling a grim warning. Who was she to declare her worthiness? In a place filled with such magical allure, reality twisted and danced cruelly, teasing that every heartbeat was a countdown. Suddenly, the ground shifted again, and the air palpably thickened. Shadows danced around her, twisting into forms that evoked whispers of lost souls. She felt their eyes upon her, searching, prying. Desperation flooded her. What if she was trapped here? Enough! She cried, squeezing her eyes shut against the crushing weight of fear. I want to know the truth. As if in response, a jewel ahead flickered violently, bursting forth threads of shimmering light that snaked toward her like fingers beckoning. It drew closer, and she found herself unable to look away. The vibrations grew stronger, pulsing in time with her heartbeat pounding, insistent. Embrace your truth, it seemed to say, and with that, a vision erupted in her mind. Memories flickered glimpses of her grandfather's haunted gaze, the heavy silence of family dinners, secrets whispered too softly to catch. Could they be buried here, beneath layers of earth and shame? She stumbled backward as images surged forth, vibrant and vivid. Figures from her family's history began to materialize around the cavern, their faces twisted in anguish. One shadow stepped forward, a woman, her own likeness mirrored in the past. She turned her head towards her, eyes piercing and sorrowful. "Why have you come?" The apparition whispered, voice echoing through the chamber like a sorrowful song. "Who are you?" She gasped, panicking as the tension pressed in all around, coiling tighter. "What do you want from me?" The spirit replied, "To know the truth, you must first acknowledge the lies." The ground trembled once more, and the laughter rose again, echoing ominously in the depths. She braced herself against the wall, heart racing as she asked herself a crucial question. Would she confront this family legacy, or would she allow greed and fear to consume her? With trembling hands, she took a shaky step forward, ready to unravel the demons buried within her family's past. But what might those demons reveal? And then, just as her foot made contact with the ground, the entire cavern began to quake violently. The walls vibrated, the gems flickering like warning lights. A terrible cracking sound echoed, and the cave was alive with ominous energies. The cavern swallowed a breathless silence, one she recognized all too well, one that screamed for her to make a choice. Fast, would she embrace the truth and reclaim her destiny, or would she turn her back on the shadows, never knowing what lay in wait? As she stood there, frozen, it became painfully clear the real treasure, or horror, was waiting for her as promised, what awaited her in the abyss of her family's truth. Would she dare venture forward, or would she allow fear to dictate her fate? The answers loomed, tantalizingly close, but waited, always just beyond her reach. The ground shook violently, and her breath caught in her throat. She could feel the very heartbeat of the cavern resonating beneath her feet, a sinister rhythm that mirrored her own rising panic. A wave of energy washed over her, and for a moment, her surroundings blurred. The ghostly figures melted into the shadows, leaving her alone in an echoing void. "Stay strong," she whispered to herself, mounting a defense against the whirlwind of emotions threatening to engulf her. Fear, shame, and curiosity battled within her, each demanding that she act, that she either flee or confront whatever reality lay in wait. "Face the truth of your soul," the voice beckoned again, more insistent, almost condescending, as if it knew her every insecurity. She shook her head, trying to dispel the creeping dread. "No. I won't be ruled by my fears any longer." Another violent tremor shook the ground, and a sharp crack split the air. The rock around her rippled like water, sending dust and debris flying in all directions. The once familiar cavern felt like a creature ready to swallow her whole. She lifted her flashlight, and the beam cut through the swirling dust, illuminating a jagged entrance at the far end, barely visible. With a flicker of hope ignited, she sprinted toward the light, each step feeling both freeing and dangerous. Would whatever awaited her on the other side be worse than the specters of her past that loomed like dark clouds? As she pushed through the threshold, the air shifted, becoming thick and heavy. Cold mist curled around her ankles, wrapping around her like a lover's embrace before turning bitterly chill. "Is this it?" she murmured, gazing into the gloom ahead. "Is this the truth I'm searching for?" Suddenly, an explosion of sound shattered the silence. A cacophony of whispers swelled around her, each voice distinct yet entwined in hushed urgency. It was as if the very walls were alive with stories yet untold. She strained to catch the words, her heart racing. Deceit, betrayal, redemption. The whispers ebbed and flowed like the tide, crashing against her consciousness, but when she focused on a single voice, sharp and resolute, a chill coursed through her. "Your family's past was built on lies, and the treasure you seek is a burden, an unspeakable secret meant to protect you." What do you mean?" she stammered, grappling to maintain her composure as anxiety clawed at her gut. "Your grandfather, he sought power, and in doing so, he made choices that cursed him and bound his bloodline to shadows. You cannot escape this, nor can you take the treasure without facing its darkness. Panic surged within her as realizations began to bulldoze through her thoughts. So, the treasure isn't gold? What does it mean for me? For my family? She gasped, feeling trapped within the revelation. The echoes morphed into another figure materializing with haunting clarity. This one was unmistakably her grandfather, his face lined with worry and regret. You must break the cycle, child, he pleaded, his voice breaking through the chaos. Unmask the truth, or it will consume you too. The air around her pulsed with unease, every heartbeat pressing against her chest, growing tighter with each revelation. She could almost feel the weight of her family's sins pressing on her shoulders. I can't bear this, she cried, her voice trembling. Then face it. The whispers erupted, a frenzy of noise urging her forward. What will you do? Secrets shield the innocent, but they also bind the guilty. Her breath quickened as she realized the enormity of the choice unfolding before her. The real danger wasn't the treasure, but the truth lurking deep within her family's legacy. She had come looking for adventure, for treasure, but instead, she stood on the precipice of a horrifying discovery that could alter everything she thought she knew. Would she unravel the tangled web of secrets wrapped around her lineage, or would she succumb to the shadows that had haunted her family for generations? The cavern held its breath, every heartbeat echoing the weight of her decision, leaving her on the cusp of an insurmountable truth. She had to confront the undeniable reality. And so she stepped forward once more, heart pounding, ready to face the legacy that awaited her just beyond the precipice. What would she uncover in the heart of her family's darkness? The answers beckoned, teasing her with the promise of revelation or ruin. The air thickened around her, each breath heavier than the last. The whispers swirled, a relentless tide washing over her as she stepped deeper into the murk. The shadows twisted, creating fleeting figures that seemed to grasp at her, pleading for acknowledgement. You have to know, they urged, but their words slipped away as quickly as they arrived. Lost in the swirling fog, her grandfather's visage haunted her thoughts, the urgency in his voice igniting a fire deep within. Break the cycle, she echoed. But how could she? Wasn't he unraveling the truth about her family guaranteed to bind her even more tightly to the lies? She fought against the rising tide of uncertainty, yet each whisper nudged her further into the depths, kicking up flares of something akin to hope. Suddenly, a blast of air rushed past her, cold and biting, reminding her of the stakes at hand. Shadows flitted past her, their forms shifting and merging like smoke, but she could swear she saw faces twisted in agony. Were they consequences of her grandfather's choices? Was this what her family had become, lost souls forever trapped in a web of their own making? Reveal yourself, she shouted, her voice cracking in the thick atmosphere. Tell me what I need to know. The response was immediate and deafening. A collective gasp surged around her as the whispers momentarily quieted. Then, one voice emerged, rising above the rest, resonating like a thunderclap. You alone have the power to change it. What you uncover may destroy you, but redemption waits beyond the horror. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, heartsick and electrifying. She narrowed her eyes against the swirling shadows, trying to make sense of the chaos. This was her moment, the moment she could define her path, not just follow the one laid by her ancestors. She couldn't let the specters dictate her fate. A flicker of light caught her eye, a glowing emblem etched into the cavern wall. It pulsed softly, drawing her closer as if it contained the very essence of truth she sought. When she reached out to touch the engraving, her fingers tingled at the contact. A surge of energy coursed through her, electrifying and wild. Images flashed before her, fragments of the past intertwining with the present. She saw her grandfather, younger and resolute, poring over ancient texts. She saw the faces of her family marked with sorrow and anguish. Their plight was laid bare, each sin etched into the lines of their souls. And at the center of it all was a treasure, a relic that promised power, and, unbeknownst to them, carried a curse heavier than gold. What is it? She whispered, her heart racing. What am I meant to do? As if in response, a wind kicked up, carrying whispers that clawed at her senses. Unveil it, face the truth. Only then will the path be clear. She stumbled back, overwhelmed, her breath quickening. The weight of legacy settled in her bones, an ache that twisted her insides. What truths lay buried? And what shadows lurked beneath the fragile surface of her grandfather's past? A new determination surged within her, she would not run. Unraveling this enigma, while daunting, felt like the only way to reclaim her family's honor or what little remained of it. As she steeled herself, an ominous cracking sound echoed through the cavern, reverberating off the walls and sending tremors beneath her feet. The ground rumbled ominously, a warning or an invitation she couldn't tell. Suddenly, the light began to flicker, the emblem's glow pulsating like a heartbeat in danger. Run! A voice cried out through the chaos, one that she recognized but couldn't place. She had mere seconds to decide. Stay and uncover the darkness, or flee from the chaos consuming the cavern. The choice weighed on her like lead, but she felt the surge of her blood demanding action. With fire in her heart, she thrust her hands toward the light, a leap of faith, ready to confront whatever horror unfolded next. But then the ground split beneath her, and she toppled into darkness. What awaited her at the bottom of the abyss? Would she discover the secrets that could either free or destroy her? She descended into the unknown, the whispers behind her fading into a haunting silence, leaving only her racing heartbeat to accompany her. The darkness enveloped her, swallowing every sense until she could no longer tell up from down. Pressure mounted around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. A rush of panic surged through her veins as she fell, the cold void reaching out with invisible fingers to pull her into its depths. But just as abruptly as the descent had begun, she landed hard on a solid surface, the impact knocking the wind from her lungs. She gasped, pain blooming in her ribs. Staggering upright, she stared into the blackness, her heart hammering in her chest. Where was she? Slowly, a sliver of light peeked through the darkness ahead, illuminating a narrow passage lined with jagged stones. She forced herself to move, each step echoing in the eerie silence, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Memories of the emblem flooded her mind, its glow seeping into her consciousness like a dream she couldn't shake. You must confront the truth, it had urged. She pressed forward, determination hardening her resolve. The path twisted and turned, shadows darting at the corners of her vision. Each flicker of movement sent chills crawling up her spine. Were they the manifestations of her fears, or something far worse lurking? As the passage opened into a larger cavern, a dazzling sight met her eyes. Crystals hung from the ceiling, glittering like stars trapped in stone. The walls sparkled with hints of silver and blue, casting an ethereal glow that danced across the cavern floor. But that beauty was overshadowed by the central altar, stark and ominous, commanding attention like a predator waiting for its prey. On the altar lay the treasure, the relic her grandfather had sought, its surface dark and slick, adorned with symbols that seemed alive, shifting as she gazed upon them. She felt the weight of its history, intrigues echoing through the ages. What had he done? She whispered, horror threading through her tone. The air crackled with tension as ghostly figures began to materialize, trapped souls emerging from the walls of the cavern. Their faces contorted in despair, reaching out to her as if begging for release. You must know. Break the curse. They cried, voices merging into a cacophony of anguish. She felt their pain pierce her heart like a dagger, but fear threatened to consume her. What curse? She shouted, her voice trembling but defiant. What have you done? One of the figures shifted closer, its voice clear and mournful. He sought power, but it came at a cost. We are bound to this fate because of it. Only by reclaiming what was taken can you release us. Release him. Sweat pooled at her temples, and she glanced back at the altar. What were they asking of her? The relic pulsed ominously, as if it too were aware of her inner conflict. I need more. She pressed, but the shadows only drew closer, the temperature dropping with an otherworldly chill. What must I do? The lead figure pointed toward the relic, its finger trembling as it faded in and out of existence. You must decide. To unveil its secret, you will confront the darkness of your bloodline. If you choose incorrectly, more than your life will be forfeit. A swell of dread crashed over her, but there was no turning back now. I will try. I'll find a way to save you. Just as she reached toward the relic, a deafening roar erupted, shaking the cavern. The shadows lurched forward like a wave, and the whispers intensified into a tortured scream. Panic surged through her. What had she awakened? Was the darkness ready to swallow her whole, or could this be a chance to find the truth her grandfather had failed to grasp? She stood before the relic, heart pounding, debating the fate of those lost souls. Would she liberate them or plunge them and herself deeper into despair? But before she could make her choice, the floor beneath her trembled violently. Cracks spidered out from the altar, threatening to swallow everything within reach. With the ground unsteady beneath her, she felt the weight of a choice pressing down, and she knew, in that moment, everything hinged on the decision she was about to make. What would await her at that crossroads? The hope of redemption or the depths of despair? The echoes of her past beckoned, and she had mere seconds to decide. The ground quaked, cracking wide like a yawning mouth ready to devour her. Suddenly, the relic radiated a blinding light, an urgent pulse that matched the frantic beating of her heart. She felt its call, beckoning her closer, but fear gripped her. "Move! You don't have time!" shouted the lead ghost, her anguished form flickering. "Choose now!" With panic surging through her like fire, she lunged for the relic, fingertips grazing its cold surface. An electric shock jolted through her, and she collapsed in a dizzying blur. Her vision blurred, memories flooded in, fragments of her grandfather's life spiraling like autumn leaves caught in a storm. She saw his relentless pursuit of power, the family secrets they buried, and the ache of their lost lineage. "Make it stop!" she gasped, clenching her eyes tight against the onslaught of images. But they pushed through, clawing at the edges of her mind. She saw herself, standing in the path of darkness but also glimmers of light. Could she really break the cycle? The cavern trembled again, dust raining down onto her shoulders. The shadows writhed closer, and the spectral wails crescendoed, voices battling for her attention. Find it. The truth is the key. She squeezed her eyes shut, her mind racing. What truth? The darkness promised to consume her, yet at the heart of it were memories and choices made before her time, choices that tied her to this moment. With a shaky breath, she pried one eye open to gaze at the relic, and suddenly she heard her grandfather's voice echoing in her mind, "Only through the truth will the chains be broken." "What were you hiding?" she whispered, desperation amplifying with every passing second. She felt the chilling grip of regret and longing ripple through her chest as the ghost strained forward. They were waiting for her, resting on the fragile edge of hope. Then, as if answering her question, the relic split with a sharp crack, revealing a shimmering light emanating from within. It flickered, particles danced like fireflies caught in a summer dusk. It needed to be touched, she realized. Not just physically but emotionally. "Embrace it," urged the lead figure, desperation coating their voice. "It's your legacy. Own it." With trembling hands, she reached deeper, wrapping her fingers around the glowing core nestled inside. As the warmth enveloped her, a flood of visions hit her. There was an ancient ceremony, her grandfather in ceremonial garb, chanting the very symbols that adorned the relic. Dark figures loomed, a pact made in shadows, a sacrifice never tallied. She stumbled back against the altar, gasping. "No," she whispered, horror gripping her heart. Her grandfather had traded their freedom for his gain, binding their bloodline in shackles. Suddenly, the disgruntled shadows surged, Ouroboros of malice. They rushed at her like a storm, and the cacophony of wails overtook her senses. "You need to choose. Will you carry the burden? Or break it?" Voices battled for dominance. Part of her wanted to turn away, to flee from her legacy, but the other part throbbed with defiance. She wouldn't carry this darkness. Not anymore. With a resolve formed in fire, she screamed against the rising tide, "I will break this curse. The shadows momentarily halted, the air crackling with tension, as if they held their breath. The relic pulsed stronger, illuminating her with a fierce blue light. The cavern shifted, and for the first time, she could see not just darkness but the pathway carved through pain, leading to freedom, but then a surge of uncertainty washed over her, dragging her spirit back down into doubt. There was still a perilous choice to be made, one that could either undo the past or seal it forever. Was she ready to confront the darkness of her bloodline's history? As she stood on the precipice of revelation, the shadows encircled her, waiting with jaws bared. The weight of countless lives rested on her shoulders. The echoes of her grandfather's choices loomed large. What would she decide in the end? And who, if anyone, would be liberated from the chains of the past when everything was said and done? The truth beckoned, and she was about to take one final step. Her heart raced as the shadows swirled closer, their whispers a cacophony urging her to make her choice. The relic pulsed like a living heartbeat in her grasp, each thrum a reminder of her ancestry's burden. "I can't let this continue," she muttered, summoning the power of those words as if they could shield her against the darkness closing in, but doubt gnawed at her. What if breaking the chains set loose something far worse? The ghosts around her remained fixed, their yearning expressions pleading for liberation. "You can't be afraid," the lead ghost urged, her voice like ice cutting through the heat of panic. "Fear is the dark's greatest ally." She clenched her teeth, trying to silence the lingering fear. All at once, the relic radiated a blinding light, igniting the cavern, illuminating ancient writings carved into the stone walls. Symbols glistened as if alive, revealing hidden truths she both yearned to understand and feared to comprehend. "Choose," the shadows hounded, their limbs outstretched, reaching for her like desperate hands. "Choose the truth, or live the lie." With a surge of adrenaline, she raised the relic higher, its brilliance rushing against the dark like the dawn chasing away night's grasp. Images cascaded before her, a ritual in progress. Her grandfather stood at the center, his eyes clouded, the darkness swirling around him like a storm. A memory of a child, a girl with her grandfather, laughter in the air flashed. She looked so innocent, so blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath their surface. "Is this how it ends?" she shouted, her voice echoing through the cavern, confidence trying to pierce through her trembling heart. "By passing this pain to the next generation, I won to let you win." As if responding to her declaration, shadows surged, thickening like storm clouds racing to drown the last vestiges of light. The horrified wails filled her mind, each cry a reminder of pain. "Release us," they pleaded, "before the darkness claims you all." The relic flared bright, cutting through the chaos, illuminating not just the cavern but the path she must take. She could hear her grandfather's voice in her mind again, clearer now. "The bloodline can only be freed by those who dare to face it. The truth is a risk, but freedom is a reward." With steely resolve, she descended deeper into the chamber, the light wrapping around her like a protective cloak. "I choose to uncover it," she screamed, "all of it. Bring the truth." The very air thickened, crackling as a torrent of memories surged into her, an unending loop of betrayal, schemes, and horror played out like a grim film reel. The pact her grandfather forged was not just a sacrifice, it was a trap woven in deceit. The truth unleashed colors of sorrow, rage, and helplessness. She felt each one waves crashing over her heart, and yet, somewhere amid the chaos, was a flicker of a solution. "Embrace it. Understand it." The lead ghost whispered fervently, her eyes glimmering with cautious hope. "You must face what's been buried." A chilling realization struck her: the remedy resided not in fleeing the past but in confronting it. Each step would pulse with the risk of failure, but maybe, just maybe, the path through darkness could lead them back into light. Courage surged through her veins. She thrust the relic forward into the flood of shadows, and the spectral legacies recoiled like wounded creatures, their moans rising into a crescendo. Suddenly, around her, everyone fell silent. The shadows halted, shifts of indecision stirring the air. They weren't prepared for a challenge like this. "Who will rise with me?" she demanded, her voice echoing off stone, glimmering hope intertwining with doubt as she waited, but the shadows remained still, and a chilling breeze whispered, "With truth comes sacrifice. Are you ready to pay the price?" Just as realization struck her, the ground below rumbled ominously, a crack streaming toward her like an ominous warning. She could feel that she was on the brink of something monumental. With one last look at the relic, she steeled herself against the impending storm. The shadows seemed to await her decision, and in that moment of breathless hesitation, she felt the weight of countless lives resting on her shoulders. Would she plunge into the depths of her family's secrets, or let the darkness claim everything? The cavern shook violently, and as the ground split open, she sensed she was about to discover not only the truth, but perhaps the real price of uncovering such darkness. The fissure widened beneath her feet, an abyss gaping hungrily for her. Heart racing, she stumbled back, nearly losing her balance in the sudden tremor. The shadows writhed, shifting like a living entity, and their whispers coiled around her, seductive but sinister. "Don't resist," a voice crooned, smoky and seductive, caressing her ear with promises of power. "Join us." Embraced the darkness desperate, she tightened her grip on the relic. Its light flickered, fighting against the encroaching gloom. With each pulse, she felt her resolve wavering, doubt seeped into her mind like poison. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if unearthing the truth led to destruction rather than liberation? "No!" she shouted, her voice echoing defiantly in the cavern. The shadows shivered, recoiling slightly, their whispers turning into a discordant scream. "Foolish girl! You know nothing of power." A cold wind rushed around her, clawing at her skin. In that moment of turmoil, she closed her eyes and recalled her grandfather's face, his gentle smile, his loving eyes. Memories rushed forward, clearer than before, wrapping around her heart. He had fought against this darkness, his battles echoing through generations. She wasn't alone, she was his legacy. "Grandfather, guide me," she whispered, opening her eyes. She focused on the relic. The inscriptions on its surface shimmered with urgency, as if calling out to her. Images flooded her vision, her ancestors, bound by a pact, their eyes filled with despair and fear. A wave of anger surged through her. They had suffered long enough. Enough! She yelled, and thrust the relic downward toward the crack, breaking the surface tension of the shadows. Light emanated from the relic, spreading like wildfire, igniting the surroundings. The cavern erupted into chaos, the wails of the shadows crescendoed into a haunting symphony of despair. She could feel the energy swirling around her, an ancient battle igniting anew. Visions flashed before her, sharp and vivid. A woman, her great-grandmother drenched in shadows, beseeching her in silence. A man, her grandfather, standing alone against a tide. An unbroken cycle of pain and fight, tears streamed down her cheeks, fueled by the weight of her lineage. "I will end this. I refuse to let it continue." She lifted the relic higher, the light bursting forth in an explosion of brilliant hues. As the illumination pierced through the darkness, it revealed a massive figure coalescing from the shadows, a towering entity, swirling with malice and sorrow. "Foolish girl!" the creature bellowed, its voice emanating from 1,000 lost souls. "You dare challenge the legacy of despair? I dare to change it." She shot back, feeling emboldened by her ancestors' strength flowing through her. And just like that, everything erupted. The ground quaked violently, fragments of stone cascading as the shadows shrieked in agony, the wails piercing her ears like shattering glass. "Will you sacrifice yourself to save the rest?" the entity roared, desperate, its figure flickering like a dying flame. "Anything," she gasped, her heart pounding against her ribcage. "If it means breaking the chains." With that intoxicating thought steering her, she drove the relic down once more, its light exploding outward like a supernova, and the room brightened in blinding radiance. For a split second, silence reigned, then, darkness surged back. A howling gale ripped through the cavern, snuffing out the light. As the shadows regrouped, she felt the relic slip from her grasp, its power wavering as if sensing the uncertainty crashing into her heart. "Oh no!" Panic gripped her. She reached out for the last flickers of hope, but they danced away in the shadows. With a gut-wrenching realization, she understood the choice she faced. Just as the shadows began to swallow her whole, a familiar voice echoed, breaking through the noise, "You are not alone. Trust the light within." But would she really trust it? Would she plunge deeper into the fight, or allow the darkness to devour everything she fought for? As shadows circled closer, closing in around her, she felt a fleeting crack within her heart, a glimmer of empowerment. What came next could change everything, or would it be her end? The cavern throbbed with palpable tension as the shadows encircled her once more, closing in like a net, tightening its grip. Heart racing, she felt the pulse of the relic slipping between her fingertips, its energy wavering as if it mirrored her own uncertainty. The darkness pressed around her, whispering doubts and years of despair in a cacophony of fears. "Join us," the entity intoned, its voice echoing with a chilling allure. "Feel the power, the freedom from your burden." But deep within her, a flickering flame of hope ignited, fueled by the memories that rushed in her grandfather's laughter, her ancestry's fights, the love that had been buried beneath the weight of secrets. "No!" she shouted, finding her voice through the fear. "This ends here." With renewed determination coursing through her, she steadied herself, recalling the warmth of those she loved. Their strength flowed through her like electricity, lending her courage. "I embrace my truth," she declared, unyielding and fiery. The entity recoiled, shadows writhing as if the very act of defiance stung. With one final breath, she gripped the relic tightly, feeling the simmering energy beneath its surface. It reacted to her resolve, glowing fiercely as if urging her on. "Show me!" she cried, the power surging in anticipation around her like a tidal wave ready to breach. As she drove the relic into the ground with all her might, a brilliant light erupted, cascading through the cavern like sunlight piercing the dawn. The darkness roared, screeching as the shadows recoiled, blinded by the purity of the light. "You cannot contain us!" the figure screamed, but its voice wavered under the brilliance of her conviction. "Watch me!" she replied, and pressed deeper into the light, her pulse synchronized with the relic's shocking vibrance. With each heartbeat, the shadows shrank back, wails turning into gasps, until the cavern erupted in deafening silence. The entity twisted, distortions of sorrow unraveling as shadows dissipated with cracking sounds. The spirits trapped in torment swirled around her, faces twisted in agony, but gradually shifting to expressions of hope. "Free us," they whispered, their voices joining with hers in a symphony of power. Together, she intoned fiercely, her throat constricting with emotions. "I will break the curse." And she did. Her rallying cry reverberated against the cavern walls, fueling her with strength she never knew she had. With a final thrust, she plunged the relic into the heart of darkness. A shockwave erupted, spilling light from the relic like an explosion of stars. The shadows hissed, churning wildly, but the radiant force broke their hold. The spirits surged around her, spectral forms glowing even brighter in unity, forming a cosmic beacon that pierced the veil of despair. "We are free!" Their voices chimed, harmonizing with her own as the shackles of her family's dark past shattered, the cavern convulsed, the ground trembling as walls melted away, revealing a garden of vibrant colors outside. Light flooded in, vibrant greens and radiant blues dancing in her vision, competing with the dingy hue of the shadows for supremacy. As the dust began to settle, the light overcame the shadows, illuminating a breathtaking scene unfolding before her. Laughter echoed through the air, and she turned in wide-eyed wonder to behold the figures of her ancestors, free at last, their sorrow washed away in the glowing brilliance. "I forgive you," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks as the weight that had burdened her family for generations dissolved around her. From deep within, the shadows evaporated, leaving echoes of laughter and redemption. The cavern transformed before her, transmuting pain into hope, despair into renewal. She felt lighter, unshackled from the burdens of sins not her own. Emboldened, she turned to face her reality, stepping into the radiant light. As her foot crossed the threshold, she heard the voice of her grandfather one last time, full of warmth and relief. You've done it. You've rewritten our legacy. And with that, she stepped forward. Intertwining her heart with her family's history, a history no longer drenched in shadows, but now glimmering with promise. As she found herself surrounded by a sun-soaked landscape, filled with colors she had long forgotten existed, she understood her journey had only just begun. A new truth had emerged, bringing with it the strength of her lineage. She would honor them, rewriting her own fate alongside the memories of the past. This was no longer just a tale of darkness but of unbreakable bonds, hard-fought battles, and journeys through the light. With that thought glimmering in her heart, she breathed in the crisp air, embracing the dawn of a new beginning. Now, listen closely. If you felt that spark of emotion during this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that will unfold before you. Smash the like button now. Your support feeds the algorithm and allows us to share more incredible tales. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us keep this conversation going, your voice matters. Finally, wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling conclusion. Spread the magic and hold on to the power of storytelling together.